from PRX.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary, it's time for the podcast that's here to really try to put some kindness in your ears and warm some kindness in your heart. Maybe you could take your hand and hold it against your chest, or fold your hands, or wrap your blankets around you a little bit tighter, and take a breath and give some kindness to yourself. And maybe we could give some kindness out tomorrow. But for now, I'm here to help you rest and get some sleep. I'm your friend, your boyfriend. I'm here to help. And why am I telling you this? Because it's time for Sleep With Me, a podcast that's here to put you to sleep. Hey, everybody, before we move forward, I just want to let you know that the reason Sleep With Me exists is because I know how it feels to not be able to sleep in the deep, dark night, and have compassion for you and empathy, and not only because I've been there, because I know it doesn't feel good. And as I've learned more about what that means and kind of looked at my actions and changes I need to make, it really deepens my connection with other people, the community around the show, the community I live in, and the community on this planet. So if you have extra needs right now, there's links to resources in the show notes. And if you want to be a part of positive change, say Black Lives Matter, say stop AAPI hate with your actions, address other things that are important to you and the members of your community, treating people with dignity and respect, and then going beyond that, there's links to resources you can connect with in the show notes, because you're important, and that's why I make this show. Your sleep's important, but you are too. So that's just, that's why I'm here. I can't say any more than that. So thanks for being here. And here's the ways. These sponsors are how I'm able to be here for you for free twice a week. Thanks. Hey, everybody, Scoots here, and you've heard me talk about the Patreon a lot. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. $5 and up patrons get ad-free, full, brand-new episodes twice a week. They also get 2 story-only episodes every single week if you just like the stories. There's no commercials. There's no jingles. And $10 and up patrons get all that. They have access all the way back to episode 2. They get all intro episodes twice a month. They get a 4 to 6 hour supersize a compilation episode every single month, and then $20 patrons get a Ray episode every month. But I just wanted to check in, if you're a patron and you don't have your patron feed set up, or if you're interested in checking it out, if you're a patron, you could go to sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed, PATRONFEED, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. When you get that patron feed set up in a quality podcast app, you could search the feed. You could say, I just want to listen to TNG episodes. You just search right in the feed for TNG. Or if you want all intro episodes, or you could set a sleep timer. You could change the speed to listen a little bit faster or a little bit slower. You could make a playlist to all intro episodes. So please, if you're a patron or you're thinking about becoming a patron, you say, wow, that solves a ton of issues for me. I just want to listen to story-only episodes. Become a patron and set up that patron feed in your podcast app of choice, and then get listening. You'll be sleeping even sounder tomorrow night. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron, or to set it up or check it out, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron feed. And if you are a patron and you need help, it's sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron help, PATRONHELP. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, BetterHelp. I've talked about my own journey with my own mental health, my own use of a licensed professional therapist, because I guess I want to normalize it for you and say, yeah, it's not easy. 2020 and 2021 have not been easy, but I want to empower you to take steps to take care of yourself, whether you're feeling depressed, you're struggling with your relationships, you're having difficulty sleeping, meeting your goals. Tonight's sponsor, BetterHelp, offers online professional counselors who can listen and help. BetterHelp will assess your needs and match you with your own licensed professional therapist. You can start communicating in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional counseling done securely online. There's a broad range of expertise available, which may not be locally available in many areas. The service is available for clients worldwide. You can log into your account anytime and send a message to your counselor. You'll get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions. In that way, you won't ever have to sit in an uncomfortable waiting room. And BetterHelp is committed to facilitating great therapeutic matches, so they make it easy and free to change counselors if needed. It's more affordable than traditional offline counseling, and financial aid is available. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they're recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. And people close to me, people in my personal life, have utilized the services of BetterHelp, and they are really happy with it. And our podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and our listeners get 10% off their first month of online therapy at betterhelp.com/sleepwithme. Visit betterhelp.com/sleepwithme. That's betterhelp.com/sleepwithme, and join the over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced BetterHelp professional. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed in 2020. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations. All right, everybody, it's time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone, the one part of the podcast I need you here. It's where I pop my peas, if you please. I thank the listeners who supported the sponsors. Let the sponsors know about it via social media or email. Used our code. Those things in combination, that's how we keep sponsors around, keep the show free. And that's why I take the time to thank listeners like Laura, Junior P, and Jacqueline B. Now, not only did Laura get some sweet peach and some rosé scented products from Native, got multiple of the sweet peach because it smelled so good. Laura introduced Junior P to Native, so supported a sponsor, told a sponsor about it by posting on Instagram, and then brought Junior P into the fold. So holy cow, talk about paying it forward. And then Jacqueline B also supported Native, let them know about it. A repeat customer, I think, as well. So thank you, Laura, Junior, and Jacqueline. Holy cow, all of you smell so good. Even unscented, it is amazing. Thanks for supporting the sponsor. If you support a sponsor, let them know about it. Let me know about it. Fill out the form at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors, or just tag me in a social media post, and I'll try to thank you here on the Sleepy Supporter Zone. The second part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is you getting the support you need. If you have extra needs right now, there's links to resources you can connect with right now in the show notes, including global resources. So please use those links right in our show notes. It's about supporting the members of our community, saying Black Lives Matter, saying stop AAPI hate with our actions. And that's also the third part of Sleepy Supporter Zone, is an organization I support, and I support Migrant Justice. And you can head over to migrantjustice.net to support them or learn more. It's pretty simple. They're organizing for economic justice and human rights. They're working hard on the Milk with Dignity program, and you can find out more and support them at migrantjustice.net or use the link in our show notes. That's the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mystery Bard, a lot of people help out on this show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the legend. Also edits episodes. Kenny, Scotty, and Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the Mystery Bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
thanks, Mr. Bard. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing trouble, getting to sleep trouble, staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is to create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, time, temperature, changes in routine, travel, work, play, whatever it is. I'm here to help. It could just be, stuff, annoying outside noises, whatever it is. I really, truly, genuinely am here to help you. And now this podcast, it doesn't work for everybody. If you're new, give it a few tries. But also don't try to make too much sense of this. This intro is not going to make a whole lot of sense. It'll just barely make sense. That's kind of how the podcast works. But here's what I'm going to try to do is try to create a safe place, as I said. I'm going to smooth it. I'm going to pat it. I'm going to rub it down. I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use the lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, which I think you could hear pretty clearly. The pointless meanders, rustified tangents, mishandled metaphors. I don't think there's been, in all the days of metaphors, there's never been someone who's mishandled there's metaphors. Also mislabeled them, and even missing metaphors, metaphors you'll miss. But I'm also something like if I sang ballads like yacht rock, you know what yacht rock is? I think I'd sing like if I was, I don't know, it's Christopher Cross. Is he one of the people that sings those kind of ballads? I would sing a song about missing metaphors. Seriously, I would sing, I don't know if it'd be straight up love ballad. I think more of like is that a power ballad? Maybe I should save these questions for a little while. Has anyone written a love song to a metaphor? I guess we'll know, maybe we'll probe that in a minute. But if you're new, welcome. Let me tell you about the structure of the show, just so you have, because that's what I just do. So the show starts off with a few minutes of business. That's how we keep the show going and free. Then there's an intro, which I just started. The intros are around 12 minutes or so. It's kind of like a monologue where I mishandle things. I mean, basically, my metaphors and everything else. Like normally, a normal intro, you could say, boom, this is the podcast that puts you to sleep. I'm going to do it. I got candles. I got sleep grease. I got incantations. I got, whatever. I have sublime, I don't have any of that though. I have intuition, no superstition. And, with the power of Titian, I'm putting you to sleep. That would be welcome to, sleep pros or something. It'd be PROS. I think I try to use sleepy prose. I mean, as I just said, I put my prose to sleep even. But that'd be, we're a sleep team. Shings. And then it would have some, we got sympathetic vibrations. We got them. So that might be another podcast. This one, I try to do that in 1 or 2 minutes. It takes me about 12. But what I found is during the intro, some people start to unwind. They listen as they go through the bedtime routine, or they get in bed and they start to wind down. Other people fall asleep during the intro. And some people skip the intro. They say, hey, I want to get to the bedtime story. So they know to jump ahead like 14 minutes or so. But the intro's really job is to try to establish some rapport, make you feel welcome, and that this is a safe place. It's a little bit different place, but it's safe. And that, I'm a mishandler and a bit of a goofball to barely not put a smile on your face, but bring your face to a neutral position. Maybe your shoulders, they feel a little bit relaxed. Maybe your cushion, maybe you get a little bit more snug in bed. So that's the intro. Then there's a story. Tonight will be kind of a retrospective of episodes 500 through 600 of the podcast, looking back to kind of celebrate passing episode 700. So it'll be fun. It'll be like just a quick saying, oh, well, what was that episode? Because I just recorded it and I'm doing the intro now. I say, whoa, wait, this happened like 17 times. What was that episode about that I made? Interesting title. And then I say, well, interesting. I'm still not remembering it. So that's what it'll be. A bit of a bedtime story. If you're new, here's the other things to know. No pressure to fall asleep. I'm going to be here for an hour to keep you company. So you can fall asleep whenever you want. Also, no pressure to listen. This will be barely engaging. Ideally, just enough to take your mind off of stuff. But not interesting enough where you're like, well, I got to hear when Scooter forgets the title of his own podcast episode's about. I can't miss that. I'm sure the regular listeners would be harring right now because they'd say, well, they kind of, you'll get used to that if you stick around in these parts. I also like to say Oshkosh Bagosh, though I haven't said in a while, so I was just throwing that out there. Oh, boy. In the past 700 episodes, I probably said, oh, boy. Oh boy. Yeah, I probably said, and I know, like, and stuff a few million times. But I'm here to help. I'm here to keep you company because I've been there and I truly believe you deserve a good night's sleep. And I want to help because when I have trouble sleeping, it's not pleasant. And I think if I could help you take your mind off that, make you feel comfortable and validated, it sucks if you can't sleep. And I really would like to help. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to be here to keep you company. And who am I? What qualifies me to make a sleep podcast that puts people to sleep other than having trouble sleeping? What kind of person is making this podcast? Kind of person that would think about for the next 3 or 4 or 5 or 2 minutes, what would go into a love ballad, power ballad, a yacht rock song, an 80s music number to metaphors. And well, one, I mean, I'm sure there's poetry about people loving metaphors, you know, but has anyone written any love songs for metaphors? Like Angel is a metaphor or something, you know, that a really catchy pop song. I guess I would say, cool, if you have an obscure song about metaphors, I'll check it out. You know, send it to I don't have any people, so send it to those people, send it to my people. I mean, I think it would be different than an ode. Here's the thing. Would a love song to metaphors contain metaphors, and would that be weird? Here's another question. If we did that, do metaphors get jealous? I mean, here's a broader question. Maybe we have not answered is, are metaphors sentient? My brain is, I think my brain's packing up and going somewhere. And it's also palming its forehead. But I think those are fair questions. Oh, okay, if you're not ready for that, brain, hold on, put that suitcase down. Where did you get that suitcase? I didn't realize there was a leather suitcase in my brain for my brain to pick up. What do you have in there, like socks and underwear? I'll get back to the metaphors. Okay, yeah, I was going to say, brain, have a seat, sit on that bed there. Also, I didn't realize my brain had its own twin bed. Yeah, here's something, brain, to think about. Can a metaphor be loved and feel loved is the biggest question. And you could use a tree falling in the woods. Yes, you could use a tree falling in the woods, a metaphor for that. You don't know exactly how it would connect to it, but I'd say, can a metaphor be loved and be beloved? Yes. Can a metaphor feel love? Who are we to ask, I would say. And if I was witty, I would have a metaphor tucked right in there to whatever, but I don't. Let me just do a check-in because I'm getting some similes. How are you feeling about all this? Is this okay? Or are you feeling like a scorned something or other? Hardy har har. At least with similes, it's a little easier. No, I'm not pandering to you. What if we all, here, come on. I'll take one hand, I'll hold my hand with a simile, and my other hand, I'll hold a hand with a metaphor. And I'll say, you know what? There's the truth. I can't write music. I can't write songs. Can't sing on this podcast. But I do, if I had the ability, if we could choose anyone, who would we choose to sing you both a song? Would it be Michael McDonald? Would it be somehow the person who sang the Top Gun song, who's now I'm forgetting? Would it be Neil Cicada? Christopher Cross? Who modern would we have sing to you? Would it be someone? Do you have? What about Zane? How do you feel about Zane? And not or someone else? Okay, well, we don't have to decide it. I was just imagining who we'd have sing you a song. Maybe Bette Midler. She doesn't sing power ballads. What about like the Eurythmics? I could see how okay, you're holding my hands a little bit tighter. Okay, maybe just Annie Lennox singing a song. I like it. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it so much. Actually, was Sweet Dreams made of this? Was that a song? Was that a love song to metaphors? Because without you, metaphors and similes, of course. Yeah, because even when I accidentally say metaphors, I mean metaphors and similes. Oh boy, there's a knocking at one part. There's a bunch of narrative devices outside my brain's door. Oh, and all other narrative devices that Annie Lennox would sing to. Without you, dreams would not be possible, though dreams are already disagreeing with me. As I hold your hand, metaphor. Okay, I didn't realize there was so many people with that want to skin in this Annie Lennox song about, there was just supposed to be, no offense, simile, love song to metaphors, which you could say is like a love song to similes. Not funny. Okay, go ahead. That's okay. I'll make it up to you, simile. Okay, please don't let any of those other narrative devices in there, because I don't even know. Is that an onomatopoeia? Okay, okay. A metaphor, I'm back. So I think it's probably best if Annie Lennox just sings the song to you. Yeah, it would be beautiful. It would be loving, and would express really my love and gratitude for you to help me, because without the podcast, because here's how the podcast works. I don't think this would be for the Lenny Anniox song. Also, sorry, metaphor, that's actually who I booked to sing the song, because I was looking at the price quotes, and I said, oh, I could afford Lenny Anniox to sing you a song. Like, look at songwriting by Lenny Anniox. Those prices I can afford those prices. So it'll be a power ballad by Lenny Anniox to metaphors. I forgot what the point I was going to make. Well, the podcast wouldn't exist without you, metaphors, especially because I try to take the whole intro and make a metaphor to explain to people, hey, this is a podcast you don't need to listen to. And by trying to make a metaphor, I show that I'm not qualified to make a metaphor, which I don't want to be too out, maybe a metaphor within itself. Oh, it's an example. Okay, well, I don't have to click on the Lenny Anniox. Oh, I'm telling you, what if that's like a secret, what is that, a pseudonym for Annie Lennox, like her side gigs? She says, well, this is where I really write my juiciest material is as Lenny Anniox. Well, you're not so sure. Well, do you feel loved? Because seriously, I love you, metaphor. Well, okay, good. Can you feel it? Okay. We'll just rest here in my arms. Yeah, like a sloth in my arms. Beautiful. So, hey, sorry I'm back, everybody. I'm holding a metaphor. I guess it's weird, but I'm holding a metaphor that looks like a sloth in my arms. Maybe it's a metaphor for all metaphors. And in some way, I'm holding it and holding it close and rocking it. Is it asleep? Because I was going to say it's a bit of proxy for you that I hope I can keep you here close and rested. And where you say, okay, this feels pretty good. This feels like Annie Lennox just wrote a song for me to say I'm loved, to say I'm respected, to say I deserve a good night's sleep. So I appreciate you coming by. If this is your first few times here, give it a few tries. This podcast's a bit different. Doesn't work for everybody, but it's harmless. So give it a shot and see how it goes, or a couple shots. But I'm glad you're here, and I really hope I can help you fall asleep. Thank you so much for coming by. I strive and I yearn to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple of ways we keep the show going. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, the amazing ZocDoc.com. Because when you need a doctor now, not in a few days, not in a few weeks, and definitely not in a few months. And I know you're hearing me, you're nodding your head, you've been through this, but ZocDoc's got it all figured out. They've got it solved for you. If you need to see an MD ASAP, we've got a solution. And here's how easy it is. You just download the free ZocDoc app, the easiest way to find a great doctor and instantly book an appointment. With ZocDoc, you can search for local doctors who take your insurance, read verified patient reviews, and book an appointment in person or video chat. Never wait on hold with a receptionist again. Never have to deal with that phone, whatever the thing is where you're pressing the buttons and then you just keep saying agent over again. It says, I'm sorry, do you want to return to the previous menu? Because whether you need a primary care physician, a dentist, a dermatologist, a psychiatrist, an eye doctor, or other specialist, ZocDoc has you covered. Go to ZocDoc.com/sleep and download the ZocDoc app to sign up for free. That's ZocDoc.com/sleep. Every month, millions of people use ZocDoc, and I'm one of them. It's my go-to whenever I need to see a doctor, and when I want to see a doctor now. Like I said, when I needed to see an eye doctor, I did not realize what a rigmarole it could have been. But then I found ZocDoc, found an eye doctor, read those verified patient reviews. I found a doctor I was comfortable with. It was all so easy through that ZocDoc app. I use ZocDoc, and you should too. ZocDoc makes healthcare easy, and now is the time to prioritize your health. Go to ZocDoc.com/sleep and download the ZocDoc app to sign up for free and book a top-rated doctor. Many are available as soon as today. That's ZocDoc.com/sleep. ZocDoc.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. Sleep With Me is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed in 2020. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations. All right, hey everybody, it's Scoots here, and I guess it's going to be a kind of Tuesday meandering style episode. I don't know where this is going to go, but this is an episode to sleepily celebrate 700 episodes. And I don't know if this will come out on episode 700 or when it'll come out. It's August 2nd when I'm recording this. And usually I record a little bit further out, but it looks like we'll hit that number in the next few weeks. So I said, let's get a 700 episode out, and we'll take a meandering retrospective. I think the last time we did this was episode 500, though it may have been episode 600. But I think 600 we were just chugging along, and we went from 500 to 700. But I'm not exactly sure about that. Yeah, but up front, I just want to thank you for, if you're asleep, that's great. I'm here. Let me tuck you in a little bit and and just to enjoy your sleepy breathing there. But if you're a regular listener and you're listening to this during the day or you're still up, thank you so much for just listening to the show. If you're listening to the show and you've given it a shot, I really, really appreciate your time and you taking the leap of faith or just a need to give the show, to say, let me listen to this, and then to stick with it because the podcast is a bit different, and say, oh, this does help put me to sleep or soothe me, or for those of you to keep you company in the deep, dark night, or those of you that do daytime listening for cooling out or just relaxation or background noise. Thank you. So I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for your commitment to me. Those of you that have gone beyond listening and interacted with me, shared your stories with me, supported me with your words. And the huge thing is just sharing the show by word of mouth. I'm really grateful for that. The show has grown because of you, and you've probably helped someone else fall asleep, and you've helped me keep going, and you've really validated the hard work I pour into the show by telling me the impact you have on the show or sharing the show or just being kind. The kindness and encouragement are such powerful things, especially that encouragement. And I've learned so much, so I want to thank you for that. So those of you that have interacted with me or just spread the word about the show silently, I know you're out there. You don't have to let me know. I'm still grateful and thank you. So thank you for that. And then I want to thank all of you that have supported the show financially. Those of you that have purchased things from sponsors, supported the show on a one-time thing. And particularly in those of you that support the show on a regular, ongoing, monthly basis, the show would, I say this, but it's true. It wouldn't exist without you. I'm so grateful because my ability to make the show comes from you and to sustain the show. And that you've taken that step and saying, well, I get something out of this. Let me support it. Not only does it mean a lot to me, it really means the existence of the podcast. So Sleep With Me in its current state over the past 3 years now, I think it would have stopped. And without the people supporting the show on a regular basis, and those who support the sponsors are a huge help too. Because Casper and Brooklyn are with us on a regular basis, and Sleep Phone's a little bit different commission thing, but it still is a big help. That's what keeps the show covered. So thank you for taking that big, rare action step of validating that the podcast has concrete value to you. And I hope you do feel really special and good about it, because you should. And when you're taking that step, there is no small step, because it is the percentage of you that do that are giants in my book. So thank you for that. And everyone, again, to circle back, though, thank you for this opportunity. I've learned so much, and I've heard so many stories, and I've been able to be of service and take something that I enjoy doing and to help people that are in a situation that I really can relate to. And I really stress that on the show. It's you deserve a good night's sleep, and this is a way I think I can help by distracting you with stories. And so you're really giving me an opportunity to really explore things. So what I propose to do is I'm going to just go into Radio Public, because they have a nice way of listing the show all in a row. And then I'm going to scroll back. I'm going to pause it here. I'll go back to episode 501, just like the Blue Jeans, and we'll start there. Okay, so looking back here and looking at the 499, 500, 501, and 502 episodes, and that is a good place to check out if you're new. 499 was the first episode of season 2 of Super Doll. And that was a pretty creative high point. Then 500 is a TNG episode. That was fun. 501 is a very, very personal episode. So if you want to know more about me and my journey, that's probably a good episode to check out. And then 502 is our lulling retrospective of the first 500 episodes, which maybe I'll run that for Labor Day instead of maybe, I don't know. I guess I'll have to look at when we're going to hit episode 500 or 700. So that starts with our review here. So episode 503 was Family. At the Picard edition, I broke the Star Trek The Next Generation episode into, it was such a dense episode about family, about Picard's family and Worf's family, that I broke it into 2 episodes. Then Phil Fushigi, Riventine, was a kind of a tribute episode I did for my brother and me, just because I love those guys and I love that podcast. And they really are as wonderful people and as funny as they sound like on the show, those 3 brothers, those goofs. So that was a fun episode to do, because that was a 2017, I think it was Justin wanted to be the Riventine, 20 Riventine. But I can't remember what they ended up, and I don't know. How did they end up? I think they were talking about Fushigi balls. So that was that. Then Project Platypus was another Superdoll Stories. And Superdoll Stories was the first half of the season was like a look back at kind of the origin stories of some of the Superdoll characters, and which was a team of superheroes just sitting around. That was the initial season 1 early on in the history of the podcast. A team of superheroes sitting around waiting to something. Then there's an ad for Tripod, which was a March 2017, a kind of way to try to get more people to listen to podcasts. Then we had Worf's Family Edition for episode 506. Episode 507 was a crossover tribute to Rob Has a Podcast. Actually, the only podcast I listen to about reality TV, about TV show Survivor. And again, Rob, just like the person, he's just a really great guy and a really, really enjoyable podcast. And again, another podcast, similar to My Brother and Me, Night Vale. A lot of other podcasts I love is like that a podcast done well can be about whatever you want it to be, but can actually serve people that mainstream something. They can go really deep. I think John Green said that once on a panel I was lucky enough to be on him with. It can go deep instead of wide, and I think Rob's particularly good at that. Then we had The Siren and the Professor, another Superdoll story. I don't know whose story that was. The Siren and the Professor. Well, I think that was. I don't know. Been a while. Then The Inner Light was one of the biggest and most beloved Star Trek The Next Generation episodes. And Lauren from Criminal Podcast recommended that one to me, along with a lot of other people. So it was a real fun episode to do. Then 510 was Lorna Dunes, which is weird because I just performed this as a live show, like a live version of it. That was a trending Carole King episode. I don't think it was the first one, but it was, an on and off thing we do. So that was Lorna Dunes. Then Goldbug was another Superdoll story. Not sure, again, what, I guess it's been a while since I've recorded those ones. Then a Sleep with TNG episode, Hide and Q. I always love the episodes with Q. John Delancey's brilliant. So that was cool. Then 513, Under the Orlando Eye. That was like an on-location episode from the Orlando Eye, a big Ferris wheel in Orlando on a kind of rainy, misty day. And it was on that with my brother and my mom. And that was really fun. And it was fun to be able to get permission to do that. I was like, holy cow, I'm really lucky. Then 514, we had a Boastmaster, which is another Super Doll story. I have a feeling that was whoever the rival was, Boastmaster. Then 515, Data's Day, another really fun episode. I think there's even a comic about Data's Day. 516 was Gaga and the Nightbirds, which was my fictionalized version of Lady Gaga's Super Bowl halftime performance. So that was cool. Then we had Goonies Week, which was something we really, I don't know if we've done anything like that again. But we had 3 Goonies-themed episodes in a row. Good Enough to Save Earth, that was a Super Doll story. I think with like a Goonies undertones. Then we had my Tales of the Tape and my memories of Goonies the movie, trying to remember the plot, which I think not long after that I went to the movie theater and saw it, like a double feature. And then we did a live unboxing of the Goonies game, which came in like one of the DVD editions somebody gave me as a gift. Then we did, so this must have been a break from TNG, a little short little break. Then we did Quit Running, another Super Doll story. Then A View to a Kitten, a tale of a tape of about a James Bond movie that I liked. Then another like an on-location episode from Sea Life Orlando. Faux Cousteau visits Sea Life Orlando. I like that rhyme, Scoots. And so that was a fun little episode that we did in a cool aquarium, which gave me a lot of material. Then in Soft Scripted Heroes, another Super Doll Stories episode. And then Back to the Future Tale of the Tape, which I definitely didn't remember Back to the Future at all correctly. Then 525 was Spruce Museum, another really personal fantasy, but also personal episode. Another kind of creative strong point for the show, which was based on, like, I like to make, sometimes when I would fantasy play outside in my yard, I guess particularly after I'd been to a museum, I would make my own museums out in the yard for fun. So it's kind of based on that type of play you do as a kid or as an adult, or that people get to do it as jobs, which is amazing. Then we did a review of Super Doll. I think I wanted to do it in a sauna, but I ended up having to do it in a hotel room where I was waiting for a sauna to warm up. But I definitely did this from a hotel room. I can picture the hotel room. And with Super Doll, I think I probably talked about this in the review. That's episode 526 is like, it was a harder series to do because there were so many characters that I said, the first half of the season we did their backstories, so it was concentrating on one character. But that was an early series, and I said, I don't know how well this translates to the sleep podcast with that many characters. But I did find it an enjoyable season, especially with their backstories. It was just when we got to the present day, that was a little bit harder because I said, well, I don't know. It's just hard to switch from all these different perspectives. It must have been halfway through the season, though. Because I see some more Super Dolls coming up here. Maybe that was the season 1 review. I don't know. That's interesting. Then 527, A Matter of Time, another good Star Trek The Next Generation episode. 528 was Ray, beloved character, my neighbor, visiting the Universal Studios tour. 529 was Hydrox, Enneagrams, and Dumplings. That was another Super Doll review, I think, because it's talking about the Enneagram, which I used a lot, or Enneagram. That's interesting because there's 3 reviews of Super Doll. Or maybe that was this Super Doll season. Then Cause and Effect, which was a TNG episode, then Florida Water Table from Podfest, or about Podfest, which is a podcast conference in Florida, in Orlando, that I'd gone to in February, and really Chris K. and Katie K., and I got to meet some wonderful people, Jessica and Diane and make a lot of good friends. Jonathan, Shell, so many people, so many great people. It was just a cool, conference. It was really outside of my comfort zone, and everybody made me feel welcome there. So I did an episode like based on the business cards I got while I was there. Then 532, Control Over Your Soup. That's another Superdoll review. So maybe I did like I think I was reading right through the notes. So it was a really dense, maybe review. Then we did the Perfect Mate, which was a Sleep With TNG episode. That was a really good one. It was one of my favorite episodes. Really good, really, really great episode. Check it out if you haven't already. It's the episode of TNG, not my episode about it. Then we had imaginary walking tour of the La Brea Tar Pits, which I had recorded right after I'd been there in a closet in an Airbnb. Then Endless Introduction. I don't think this is our first Endless Introduction. It may have been like intro after intro after intro after intro. And those have turned out to be pretty popular. I do it during holidays, and then I think $10 and our patrons get 2 all-intro episodes a month. So really cool. But I know a lot of people are big fans of the intro. Then 536, Measure of a Man. That's from Sleep With TNG. That's a really classic data-based episode. Salad in Real Time. That was a real-time recipe episode about making salads. And then this was a new series, Big Farm in the Sky, Private Eye. This was a series I really, really enjoyed making about someone that went to the big farm in the sky and became a private eye when they got there. And he got help from someone back and not in the big farm in the sky, his niece and her best friend. And the niece and the best friend were kind of tribute to George and Karen from MFM podcast, who have always been big supporters of Sleep With Me. Then 539, we did The Game, another fun episode because it has some action in Risa from Star Trek The Next Generation. Then an on-location episode, Dusk, featuring Slurp and DJ Echo Bass. And that was a fun one. I don't know when I recorded that, maybe in February 2017. But that was a cool episode. Yeah, because I think I was there twice in February, in 2017 in February. And it was a fun episode to make. And we don't release publicly on-location episodes anymore with the ambient noise. But they are, like, if you ever look at our Patreon goals, they do get released based on how many patrons we hit and stuff. Case of the Missing Moose from Big Farm PI. That was a good, fun episode. That was his second case. And then another Q episode, Deja Q, with Sleep With TNG. Good classic, I would say. Then episode 453, Daydream to Believe In. I don't know what this episode is. I think it must be a Trending Tuesday style episode. Is that? Oh, no. Okay, now I'm starting to remember. I think this is the one where I'm thinking, yeah, it's like based on my walk to work. And like I was daydreaming. Yeah. And I ran it like where my walk to work, where I get fully immersed in the daydream. Then 544 was Yellow Snow Mystery, which was a Big Farm in the Sky PI episode. And that was a really enjoyable one. I really had a lot of fun with the Big Farm in the Sky PI episodes. I'm sure it'll come back at some point soon, though I don't have a date on that. But that one was just taking these ideas of like, what would a mystery be if it was a sleepy bedtime story and it occurred, after someone made their way to the big farm in the sky. Then we have The Offspring, another data-centric Star Trek The Next Generation episode, another really heartfelt one. Bored Chromeless, Trending Tuesday style episode. I don't know what this one's about. As we hear some history about salons. So I don't know what happens in that episode. I mean, I'm just guessing that it was like one of those seminar episodes where you would rent the podcast out to the boredom seminar people. Then another one, Missing Music Box, Big Farm PI, where they were looking for a music box. And that was a two-parter because G, the niece based in Georgia, was a tribute to, was missing her music box. And it was like, is the music box in this world, the Earth world, or the Big Farm world? The next phase, I'm trying to think what the next phase was, Sleep with TNG. And I can't think of it. It sounds like it would, is that one with, I think it was the one with Jordy and, let me see if I could open it in a new tab here. Because I think it was with Jordy and Rowe, Ensign Rowe. They get phased out and then phased back in. At 5:49, Bernie the Butterfly came by the podcast to talk about 5 seconds of summer swag. And I can remember being in my car and parking at work and maybe listening to the first cut of this. And trying to figure out, trying to look up swag about 5 seconds of summer. But Bernie the Butterfly is like a grouchy butterfly that comes by sometimes. And he really loves 5 seconds of summer. Yeah, 5:50 was Sleepy Seahorse Cove, which was, again, the conclusion of the Missing Music Box. G... or maybe it's DK's Missing Music Box. I actually don't know whose music box was missing. But we're coming up on my favorite episode of Big Farm PI. 5:51, Imaginary Friend. Wow, that was June 18th, 2017. Doesn't feel that long ago. But man, yeah, we've been through a lot since June 20. But so that was a fun episode about an imaginary friend. Star Trek, this is TNG. Then 5:52 was Slowly Flying Through the Fearless Flyer, where we read through a Fearless Flyer, I guess it's probably for spring or winter of 2017. We don't do those anymore except on Patreon just because it's a free advertising for somebody. And I figured, but those are really fun episodes, and you could check our goals out and see. Now, this was one of my favorites, 5:53, The Dog That Chased the Moon. It was a dog that just was at the big farm in the sky, but just kept trying to chase the moon. And that was I guess the mystery was, I don't know what the mystery was, why or how to stop. I think the mystery was, can you get this dog to stop chasing the moon? And maybe always part of it is, why is the dog chasing the moon? And then, it was spoiler. And then it was like, can we get the dog to the moon? And I think it all got resolved and tied up in a bow. It's funny looking at all the episode lengths because everything is like over an hour, which is like, I think the sweet spot, 1 hour and 1 minute or like somewhere in there. Though we can't always hit that. Then Rascals, that was a fun TNG episode. Blue Light Special, that was a look back and another adventure with my good friend Morley Safer, who occasionally we had adventures with. This is a look back at an adventure with Morley, who is in the reporting from the big farm now. And it had to do with missing, I guess it was another mystery, but not a big farm mystery. It's like the blue lights from Kmart. We were investigating that, missing blue lights from Kmart's. Then another big farm, Waiting for Steve Jobs, which was a fun episode too. It was like about, for people that are fans of iOS Apple products, there was like different places in the big farm for them to live. depending on what iteration, were they like the Candy Mac people, the more gleaming white Mac, or more of the chrome, whatever, metal type, silver, space gray. I don't know if we had a space gray back then, but that was a cool, fun episode to do. Then we did Elementary Dear Data, which was that's a fun episode. Then for the 4th of July, we had all intro episodes, just like this year. And for July 6th, so I could take a little time off, was another intro episode, because it's like, other than Thanksgiving and the holidays, New Year and Christmas holidays is the slowest time of the year for listening, but I still want to have stuff out, for everybody. Then we did the Tng Episode Tapestry, which I think is another, I guess I get that and Perfect Mate mixed up. When I think about Tapestry, I think about Perfect Mate, and then I think about the Perfect Mate for my ears, which is Carole King. Well, let's see what that is about. Oh, Jean-Luc, this is when he goes back to his childhood, or to his time at the academy. So that was a decent episode. I guess the tapestry of our lives. Then 561 was the conclusion of the Blue Light Adventure with Morley, Distilled Blue Light Blues, which was a good, solve a case with mystery. Then it was 562, Curse of the Cursing Notebooks. That was a Big Farm in the Sky adventure that had some personal connections to notebooks, and kind of attempt at a personal healing journey. So I liked that one. Then 563 was a Game of Thrones season 6 recap. I think like getting ready for the kickoff of Game of Thrones. So I think what happened with that one was that was a new episode that actually ran through Game of Thrones. Let me just see, though. Let me take a look. I don't know if it was a repeat or a new episode. Oh, yeah. And that had a very popular, the Glee Duster is the intro for that one. That's a very popular intro. 564, Sands Day at the Beach. That was a Trending Tuesday episode. And that was a memorable one. It was just a picture of people getting ready to go, like a uncle and his nieces and nephews getting ready to spend the day at the beach from a view of a grain of sand. So that was a fun one to make. Then Callie and the Clones, that was a Big Farm episode, which was a really enjoyable episode that I kind of barely remember. Then we kicked off season 7 of GOT, and with Dragonstone. I think I recorded that on on the road. I mean, I remember watching the episode twice on the road, and I was excited for that season to kick off. I mean, we're waiting for the next one. I think it comes out next year. Then we had My Life with HBO, which was a look back at like HBO's impact on me, and me looking through TV guides from that period to see what was on HBO that I might have watched as a kid. This was another Big Farm episode, The Case of the Outshining Crown, which is, who's going to wear the brightest crowns, and think about that. And really kind of a journey starting with the Big Farm into like these more archetypal childlike ideas, like maybe not based on anything, but based on these childhood concepts of like, oh, well, once there was a king who wanted to wear the brightest crown, or once there was a queen that wanted the shiniest crown. Then there was Stormborn. That was another GOT episode. Then another On Location episode, Lake Ontario, Can I Call You Terry? And I can remember this night, like I was literally lying in a beach chair on this rocky beach on Lake Ontario at night. It was very, very windy and very, very wavy, way more than comes across in the recording. I don't know how. Like, I remember recording it, and it was like an ode to Lake Ontario, that my favorite, the greatest of the Great Lakes, and of lakes, period. No offense to other lakes. it was really a love song. And I was like, is this even going to be, when I was recording it, I was really all in to these odes to Terry. And I was like, is this going to be a usable recording? And it did work out. Like, it was usable. Looks like we have 2 episodes 570s in here, so I'll have to fix that. But 570 is a Rumble Tummy Bird, another Big Farm episode, a fun one. 572, The Queen's Justice. This is a good Khaleesi episode. Then an episode, I don't know what it is, Bus Rides with Scooter. I remember one bus ride episode from a while ago, but that's not this one. So let's see what I wrote in the thing. Also says as the wheels in the bus go round and round. So I actually don't know what that episode is about at all. I mean, because maybe I talked about the 51A. I don't know if I talked about other bus rides I'd been on, because it says Bus Rides with Scooter. Because I know I had an original series. I was thinking about doing Tales from the 51A. But then I thought, people don't want to go on the bus to end up on a sleep podcast, so let's keep any bus things personalized or imaginary. Then I think of really Closed Open Books, which is a book, like a mystery about a book or books, Big Farm PI. And that was the final episode, and one I enjoyed making very much. Then The Spoils of War, which is another Game of Thrones episode. Post Khaleesi, Jamie's in that one. I think that was one with, Jamie. That was a good cliffhanger between The Queen's Justice and The Spoils of War. Then 576 was a crossover I did with a Meditation Minis podcast, Shell, which was the idea of a chair there to comfort you, whether you're flying or you're going to have your teeth looked at, that a chair will be there to keep you company. 577 was a lulling overview of Big Farm PI. 578 was Eastwatch, a Game of Drones episode, Game of Thrones drones. And that was I'm trying to remember that episode. Eastwatch by the Sea, they call it. Then there was Desert Island Serial, which was where I had an adventure with Boo Berry, Count Chocula, and Frankenberry. Though I think, even in that one I quibbled. How come the other two are those two related, Boo Berry and Frankenberry? And I know that at least around Halloween, that serial gets re-released now, that someone bought the rights to it. So keep an eye out for it. I don't think I've bought it, but, I'd like to. And I probably should get some shirts with those characters on there. Then we had a big return for a lot of the hardcore fans of the show. Was a return to Agatha and After the Glass Slipper. And this was our first season 3 of anything, I think. I'm pretty sure this was our first season 3. And really a show I worked very, very hard on, a series I really delved into with the lessons I had learned from the last 2, were these serial series, even if you never hear them, I think will put you to sleep for some people. I mean, I believe all the podcast episodes, it's like the work that goes into it is what really results in people being able to sleep. But those ones I really dived into, like fairy tales and myths and stuff, to give it some support, each story. And it was based on Agatha and I think her co-teacher, who may have been Penelope. I can't remember who her co-teacher was. But that they were teaching the children of this new kingdom they lived in, who were some had a background from the fairy world, and some had a background from the human world, and they were trying to create a class about respecting the myths of the fairy people, because they had because everything. Cinderella's still a great leader, but because the fairy their kingdom had been lost. 581, great episode of Game of Thrones, the show Thrones, Beyond the Wall. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Tale of the Tape. I really had a hard time remembering the plot of this, and it was that was one of the tougher tales of the tape. I said, how does my brain not remember Pee-wee's Big Adventure? Then we had Clam King and the Seasons, which is a tale of Clam King and Manila, which someone pointed out recently. They were listening and said, is this about Persephone? And I said, yeah, it's pretty much based on the tale of Persephone. I think that's who it's based on. I'd have to look at my notes. Then we had 584, The Wolf and the Dragon. That's when the Khaleesi and Jon Snow, I think, connect. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, I guess that's when they finally connect. And Tyrion's just standing out there, which was interesting. And that was the end of that season, which was saying, man, I can't believe that season came to a close. But I guess it was like a kind of two-part that'll close with the last few episodes of Game of Thrones. Then we got to walk around Disneyland with my neighbor Ray, which is always a joy. 586 was Daymog and Jalid, which was it could kind of like a meta. It was like about the first Star Trek The Next Generation episode we did, which was about, I'd have to think, I can't remember the words they used, and then about Beowulf, and anyway, just like a lot of myth on top of myth on top of myth. Then we had Game of Thrones Season 7 recap. And if you don't listen to Game of Thrones episodes, I strongly suggest checking them out. They're a lot longer. And they have the coverage of the episode, then the coverage of the facts of the episode. Then they have Tommen and Pounce, and then they have prayers to the old gods and the new. So really, really long and I don't know, different episodes, and we make labor intensive for sure. 588 was Kayak Cruise. It might have been our last on location episode, though we'll find out. Maybe there were one or two others. Yeah, I think maybe there's one or two others, but that was an episode I recorded in a kayak. And again, it's just like the on location episodes are a bit labor intensive. To support just for the free podcast. But those are fun ones. And that was a fun one. I was in a kayak looking for great blue herons. 589, Girl Without Birdsong. So that was an After the Glass Slipper episode. One of my episode, when I look back at it, I can remember making this and writing it. And the myths behind it and stuff. So powerful episode for me, just making it and thinking about it. Captain's Holiday, that was a fun Game of Star Trek episode. So TNG was back. And that was Picard's trip to Risa, which everybody was happy about. They said, finally, Captain, you're going to relax here. And he said, what do you mean? Okay, then 591 was another kind of tribute crossover episode, things I might have wrote as a kid. And that was based on a podcast, Grown-Ups Read Things They Wrote as Kids, and a live show. So just another podcast for you to check out. Then Mother of All Alchemy, which is After the Glass Slipper episode. Again, kind of probing at some myths. Then we jump to TNG, The Naked Now, which was, I think, the second. Like there was the first two episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1 was a two-parter, or else just a really long episode, Encounter at Farpoint. And I think Naked Now is either the second or the third episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. It's pretty out there. So it's just wild that it was like that early on. Really out there, fun episode to check out. Okay, here's some back-to-back ones. This is one's called On Summer's Horseback. This is when it was not on location, but it was afterwards recounting a horseback ride I did. It's a really popular episode. I hear from a lot of people about it. And it's because it's true. Like, I think the reason people like it is because I was riding a horse. Wasn't particularly my forte or within my wheelhouse. They said, okay, my daughter wants to go for a horse ride. Well, let's go. But then, so then what I did to pass the time was talk to my horse, whose name was Summer. And I whispered to her and I sang to her and I negotiated with her. Like I said, let's get through this summer together. And don't be sympathetic to my vibrations. Please, Summer, please. And I think that's something a lot of listeners have a relationship with. 594 was again another After the Glass Slipper Magic Frog song. Just inspired by a really cool myth, I think a Grimm's tale. And that I was able to kind of reimagine in a way, or pretty big way, change it around. And say, okay, well, if this was so, I don't know. Again, I just really, I can picture the journey that the story goes on and almost experience myself. And that doesn't always happen, but I think that's an important part of the show is that it can give you a physical and visceral journey. And I could take it. I could see cobblestones and being outside of buildings, this frog, then Cupid, another fun Q episode for TNG. Then another experimental episode, Trending Transcript Tuesdays with a machine transcript of a Lady Witchbeard episode. And that was just an experiment, pretty bizarre. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I think it went okay. And then Dueling Butterflies was After the Glass Slipper episode. I don't know what that one was about. Let me look it up, actually. I have no clue. It's weird how some of them come back to me instantly. But it's like each of these episodes represents like about 20 hours of my work. So that's like between where we are today and now, that's like 100 times 20. So 2,000 hours of work since I made that episode. And it's just the episode work, not putting the podcast, everything out. Let's see what it says about that. Don't worry, Hamilton fans. No birds will be harmed in this podcast. Only lulls will be cast by caring siblings for you to sleep to. So it doesn't really give us a lot of details about what happened in that episode. Dueling Butterflies. So it would have been butterflies trying to top one another. I'm trying to think of like what myth or what, After the Glass Slipper Dueling Butterflies. Usually I remember all of these. Well, clearly not all of them. But I really can't. I mean, I can picture beautiful butterfly wings flapping and relaxing us and unwinding us. And I'm sure Bernie was mentioned in it, but Dueling Butterflies. I guess when I get off, I'll have to check it. But I'm sure it was like a tale based on either a myth or a fairy tale. I'm just trying to buy some time to see if my brain remembers it. Plus, well, we'll just stop here. So what I'll do is I'm going to look up the notes for that. 598 Dueling Butterflies. Let's see, because the next episode was 599 The Chase, which is Star Trek The Next Generation episode. Pretty close to the end of our Star Trek coverage. And the reason we haven't gone back, we will be doing some Star Trek coverage either soon or concurrent with this episode when it comes out. But the reason is it just it didn't realize how, like, some people just, like a large percentage of listeners just won't listen to Star Trek episodes. And I know it's some people's favorites, so I've tried to find some balance, so just to do just a few episodes. That way people are getting the episodes, but it's not let's see. So I'm sorry, I'm messing around trying to find a folder with the notes here. What did I say? Dueling Butterflies. I wonder if my notebook is here. And that's what I'll bring you to sleep. And then what I'll do is, and I think this would take an hour. So I guess we'll do another recap of 600 to the current thing. Let's see here, though. Show notes. After the Glass Slipper Season 3. I see it'd be Nella. Shelley Part 2, Statue, 12 Children, Daymog, Frogs, Bezel, Syllabi. Maybe this was one maybe this episode never existed because I don't see, I don't know, this one is mislabeled. Well, this one was based on an episode of Weird Science. I don't know which episode this was. This is Alchemy. So that's Mother of All Alchemy. Statue Love, 12 Children. I wonder what this one was. Maybe this was the Dueling Butterflies. Oh, I think this was. So it was based on the 12 children, one sister. I think this is it, about that they all get a king regent, 6 sons, 6 daughters, fairy godmother to help watch over the children, 12 children play together. Meanwhile, the queen has her own, so that was with his first family. Then his current queen has a boy and a girl. And they go, all the kids are living in one tower by themselves. The brother and sister find them and say, hey, all these kids are playing in a playroom in a tower in our castle. And then they get sent off. And I think they get changed into butterflies. And then they return. I kind of remember this. At the end, the girl rules forever. All children have moth birthmark on them. Prince Regent wants more children. This is still kind of in the notes. Queen relents. This is okay. King makes a playroom. Sends the children out. 12 strands of ivy. So a little bit, that's a little bit about it. Basically a tale of the children turning to butterflies, helping their sister by carrying her, and then turning back into her siblings. So I hope as you now picture a flight of beautiful butterflies, and they're gently rocking your bed if they're cool with that, and maybe they're carrying you into the clouds, or maybe you're nice and snug in your bed on the ground. Or maybe the butterflies are just outside gently flapping their wings with beautiful, restful sound as you get more comfortable and drift off. Good night. All right, everybody. This is our second retrospective episode, looking back at the last 600 episodes, or the last 100 episodes of the podcast. And actually, I'll be looking into the future before release, because I'm recording this in early August. But again, just like in the other one, I couldn't make this show without you. So thank you so much for all of your support, all of your listening. Let me really tuck you in bed. It really is an honor to be here and tell you bedtime stories and to help you go to sleep, or to keep you company in the deep dark night, or to keep you company in the day when you might be under some stress. I can't tell you, I mean, maybe you can feel it, because I can feel it in my chest and in my gut and in my heart right now talking about it. I don't know. I didn't expect so maybe I'll do a little bit of a personal retrospective, a quick one of the history of the podcast, and then of the history of the last year, and then go into the last 100 episodes. With maybe some personal, I don't know, but I'll keep it sleepy. Don't worry, because we definitely 700 episodes is pretty far from the beginning. Because when I started this show, and some of you may not know that, this. I had no experience in podcasting or broadcasting or being recorded or performing on the mic. And I also had no idea that this podcast would work out. I wondered, I said to myself, why isn't there a bedtime story podcast for grown-ups? And I'd said it for years, and I said, and then the answer would come back from another childlike part of me, well, why don't we make it? And I would say, no, that's not for, we can't do that. That would be, that's too, we don't have that experience. We don't know what we're doing. We couldn't make that. And that kid-like voice would come back and say, come on, let's make that podcast. I think we could make it. And if you've heard the history of the podcast before, that was something that went on for years. I said, no. And I said, well, we love all these podcasts. And it was recently, I was just exchanging tweets with Brian from Coverville, which was one of the first podcasts I started listening to on a regular basis in the aughts. I don't know what aught, in 05. I don't know what year it was, but, and that was one of the shows I said, wow, you can really make podcasts are a joyful thing, and they can really be about anything. And Brian's show is about cover songs, and it still continues to this day. And he's in the Podcast Hall of Fame. He's been doing it since the beginning. He's also on the morning streams. I know a lot of morning stream shout out because I know a lot of, we have some crossover in our audience, which is really cool. So, just hearing stuff like that, it encouraged my child, Brian, whatever. I don't know if Brian is an inner child. I think he probably does. But say, hey, well, he's making this fun show about cover songs. Back then, there were shows like Dawn and Drew, and Scott Sigler had these audiobook style podcasts. Those were two other ones. My kid was like, hey, look at these shows. And sometimes, like early on, I would listen to podcasts with other people, and they wouldn't feel the same. And then there was this podcast, what was it called? WDW Today, and it was these guys, these five guys, or what's he? Len, Mike, and Matt, and then sometimes they would have another guest, talking about in depth about the Disney World theme park. And it was just so interesting to just hear these, like it was literally like I was getting to look in through a window on their lives, even though a lot of stuff they talked about was subtextual and there'd be tension between them. It was ostensibly they're just talking about Disney theme parks, but it was like hearing it, it just felt like I was getting to inhabit, like being John Malkovich in each one of them. And I don't know, it was just another one that I said, wow, you really can make a podcast about anything and just do it. And at the time, I think the big podcast was Ricky Gervais's, like a repurposing of a radio show as a podcast or as a radio. I don't know. I never looked. I think I have looked into the history, but it was Stephen Merchant, Ricky Gervais, and Carl Pilkington. And I think that was Carl Pilkington's kind of a big debut in the world. And it's just another very funny, very different, especially from American radio. And again, my kid said, wow, look at all this stuff. And there's so much other stuff that I was listening to, but those are just a few examples. And I said, no. We and I kept putting that idea to bed and saying, not listening to that call. And then at some point I did listen to the call, and we'll skip over the years between them. I kind of talked about it on other shows, but I was trying other stuff, and I had kind of slowly been starting to commit to living my life a little bit fuller. And it was a very slow journey to do that, and to take some action where I could. And there was a lot more backwards motion than forward motion, but there was still some forward motion. And then at some point, one of the things I was working on did not work out. And I remember, and I've talked about this in other places, I was on a bus during the transit strike where the trains weren't running. And so it's a very, very long bus ride with a lot of stops and a lot of people. just because the trains were down and people were trying to get to work. It wasn't like a bus you would normally commute on. And this project kind of imploded with the other people I was collaborating with. And right at that point, like I knew that project was done. I'd had time every week committed to that project. And this part of me said, hey, why don't you start that sleep podcast, right? And I said, what? Yeah, where you were working on this other project, just start to work on the sleep podcast. Just put it in there. And I said, okay. Yeah. And I said, just do it because otherwise life's going to close up and you won't get a chance to do it. I think you should do it. And I said, okay. Yeah, let's do it. And so I did it. And I just started, basically. It's a non-dramatic thing. I was looking on YouTube and the internet for how to make a podcast. I borrowed some equipment. And I said, let's just start trying to make this a bedtime story podcast for grown-ups. And let's start, like, from what I had learned on the internet and from listening to people that had been making podcasts. One was podcasts aren't a money-making thing. Two, it's very hard, especially when you have notes. So I didn't have any expectation of that. And I said, well, it's very hard to get people to listen to podcasts, especially if you don't have an audience. So I said, okay, that's good, probably, those two things, because I don't know what I'm doing. And the consensus seemed to be that it took 3 years to get people, like, to build any kind of audience. So I said, okay, well, 2 to 3 years usually, but it definitely is 3 years is the consensus. But it's easier to say, okay, well, 2 to 3 years is a little more palatable. And then another consistent piece of advice, and not 100%, like this is a gray area, but a stronger is if you don't have an audience, releasing something on a consistent basis will help, that's better than just releasing it randomly. For me, it's like, and that worked. I said, okay, so have a deadline. And I did think about it when I was making the podcast. I said, well, people are falling asleep. And if this podcast did work and I was listening to it, I would want to know when it's coming out and I would want it to be out then. And so that's something we've always kind of stuck to is like really having a consistent schedule, even down to the time, unless there's a glitch that the episodes come out, which I think currently is 4 p.m. Pacific on Sundays and Wednesdays. And then what happened was I started making the podcast and I started putting it out and I was learning, and you can listen to the kind of the content side and the lulling retrospective of the first 500 episodes. Because in that first 150 episodes is really where the current state of the podcast was born, from all the experimentation, not so much in the content of the content, but in the creation of it and saying what works, what's sustainable for the creation standpoint. And at some point in there, probably pretty early on, I settled on a 3-time-a-week schedule because I said, well, if I was listening to podcasts again, I would want it 5 nights a week if I relied on it to fall asleep. And I said, well, that's impossible. And he said, if I push really, really put a lot of work in, I can do it 3 times a week. And also there's a part of me in my mind that said, well, if it's at 3 times a week, maybe that'll be good for the audience. And then I said, okay, can I do that for 2 years? And that became my goal. That was my goal pretty early on, was like, can I make this podcast? Well, first it was like with the goal of making it for 2 years, but having points in between to be like, can I make 2 episodes? Can I make 8 episodes? Can I make 20 episodes? Can I make 50 episodes? And I think when I got to 50, I was like, I'm definitely making this for 2 years. And that was like a bit of a, like, not having a little bit more, I think I maybe overcommitted. So that was tough because between 50 and, there was 250 episodes between episode 50 and 2 years. But I kept at it for 2 years. And at the end of 2 years, I said to myself, well, should we keep making this podcast? Yes, but is this sustainable? And the answer was no. It was just the podcast is like making a podcast like this is the equivalent of like at least a 2 or 3 person team. if each person's working like a normal work schedule of like 40 hours a week. And I was also working a job this whole time to pay my bills and keep the, and pay the bills of the podcast, which at the time were smaller because the podcast was smaller. But at the end of 2 years, I said, okay, well, we have an audience. And I think at the time, maybe at the end of 2 years, there was like 10,000 regular listeners, which is really, I was really grateful for that. And that was really something that said, okay, this podcast does have potential. And so then I forget if I committed for another year or 2 years. I think I said, okay. Well, I think I said, can I make this sustainable in a year? Like, otherwise I'll have to stop. I think that's what I decided. Maybe I said 2 more years to make it sustainable. I can't remember, but I said, okay, like, let's see if we could get it to a number of listeners where it's sustainable, like where it could sustain itself, which is at the time, I think this was more not prevailing logic or consensus, but more just internet opinion was like, oh, if you have 30 or 40,000 regular listeners, you could definitely pay for 1 or 2 full-time positions. And I did find out that for my podcast, that wasn't true because it puts people to sleep. So it makes it adds this extra hurdle of trying to pay the bills when people are asleep. But so I think I said by 3 years, if I be around that number, then maybe it'll be then I can find a way to sustain it. And I think I'm not sure. My memory is not perfect, but I think around 3 years, we're right around that number, like 30, 40,000 regular listeners. But in there, I don't know if when in 3 years, we didn't really have any money. We didn't have any money coming in. We had a tiny bit of Amazon money coming in. Mostly I was still subsidizing. Well, no, mostly I was subsidizing the podcast with my free labor. And then any money I would have spent on myself or my leisure money. Like it was like a expensive hobby or something like that. And at the end of 3 years, I think this was 3 years, but maybe this was 2 years. I don't know. I said, I don't think I can keep doing this. Like, it's just it's easy to do something like this for 2 or 3 years. So maybe I'm getting 2 or 3 years mixed up. But I said, I need help. I can't keep putting this show out 3 times a week. It's just not achievable. And so I was like, okay, well, what can I do to get help? And I think we tested it. We tested some sponsors in there at some point, and that didn't really take hold as a reliable source of money. And then at some point, we started the Patreon, and I said, okay, if I could bring in enough money to pay someone to do the first edit of the show, the editing, like after it's recorded, editing the episode, so it's pretty much ready to go. I mean, I would listen and make any changes. Like I said, maybe if I could get help and I could build a Patreon to pay for help with 1 episode a week and then 2 episodes a week with the goal of getting to 3 episodes a week. I said, I think I could keep going. And actually, like before the Patreon started, I started paying out of my pocket. I said, well, I found someone, Chris Posterson. I had heard his podcast. He had done the theme music for the show. I knew he was talented and capable. And so I think this was, I don't know if this is a 2-year point or the 3-year point, right around that. I think it was November or October. So that was right when we started the show. But I don't know if it was after 2 years or 3 years that Chris started working for the show. And I started paying him. And I also have a philosophy. When you work on something for free, you realize that that's kind of like sets this not great precedent. And you realize, like, how much, work goes into the show. And there's a lot, the spectrum of audio editors of pay is pretty wide. And I knew Chris's talent, and so we agreed on, what I think, I would love to pay him a lot more money, but it was like I said, well, if I was doing this, how much would I want to get paid an hour? Or per episode. So we found a price that I was comfortable with and Chris was comfortable with and that I felt was reasonable by the quality of work and livable. I mean, only as a side gig because it's not like this is the editing is not a 40-hour week work. And so I kind of built the Patreon around that. And then I started the Patreon, but I still had in the back of my mind that at some point we'll have like all the rest of our bills like would be paid before by sponsors, just because that's like a lot of the podcast advice out there. And so a lot of my budgeting and stuff was like, okay, well, when we have sponsors, regular sponsors, that's how I'll be able to pay myself, and I'll be able to like pay some of the other bills. And the Patreon will be like a supplement, or the Patreon will be like the sponsor will be our A option, and the Patreon will be our B option for funding. And then we had like CD, like affiliate, like sleep phones, and what else do we have? Like affiliate, like Amazon, stuff like that. Is other small, very small, but still any money helps funding options. And again, this isn't all. I'm winging this, so there's definitely some probably holes in some of this stuff. But then I started the Patreon, and I guess like when you start, you do something for free. And some listeners told me this. It's like this podcast is very valuable, but sometimes your esteem gets mixed in with it, and it's not always the most positive version of your esteem. And I started to think, well, maybe I'll just ask for listeners for $1. Like if I could have got 10% of the listeners at $1 of the show, I said, I guess part of me still always blown away this was, well, how hard would that be? It should be easy for Sleep With Me. Even though the prevailing logic was only 0.5 to 2%, and 2% is like really nearly unachievable of your listeners will support you on like a platform like Patreon, will pay for something free. But I think I was more delusional. Like, I have a good relationship with the audience, so I was a little delusional of like what was possible. But I was also scared of just asking for more money than $1. And so I asked for $1, and I thought we could get 10% and then maybe 1 or 2% not $1. And that was actually like a big error. Because one, we weren't able to achieve even come close to that 10% number, and it kind of let a lot of our initial patrons know, $1's all Scoots wants or needs, because that's what he's asking for, which was totally reasonable conclusion on their part. And so a lot of the initial people that became patrons were $1 patrons, which is like usually your core you get in the first 3 or 4 months of your Patreon. But then a couple listeners, particularly Julie C., one of the moderators, said, this is I don't think this is okay. Like, the podcast isn't just worth $1 to me, and it shouldn't be worth $1 to you if you're working 90 hours a week and a day job to pay for that. Like, isn't it worth, are you sure you're not just, you're devaluing the podcast and I said, you're right, I am. And so then at some point we changed to focus. And also, like other realists said, you can't get 10%. And the numbers were clear that it was like we'd never get to 10% of support. Not even, it was just almost like it's a mathematical impossibility. And so that was a little bit tough. But we said, okay, well, let's just go back. We'll keep doing this, and we'll see how it goes. And we'll take it one step at a time. And this was somewhere between years 2 and 4, which all kind of becomes mashed together. And I said, okay, now over years 2 and 4, we'll try to make this sustainable, because at the end of year 4 or end of year 3 or end of both years, I was like, okay, if this isn't sustainable, I have to stop or cut back. I guess it was at the end of year 3. And at the end of year 3, it wasn't sustainable. I guess it was the end of year 3, right? But it was getting there. And I said, it's just a matter of getting the sponsors. We had Patreon support of maybe 1% or maybe somewhere in 1% of the listeners. And while we had like a lot of dollar patrons, because the initial the way I conducted it, it was still good signs. And then we had on and off paid sponsors, and Sleep Phones was an affiliate sponsor, which is a little bit different, but it was like, okay, sooner or later, this is all going to work, because I know it's working. It's putting people to sleep. I'm consistent. But it was still a lot of work. And then again, I got a point where I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, it's just not sustainable for me. And I started working with my job and my vacation that I'd let build up and trying to work flex schedule and trying to cut back at work when I could. And then like trying to be like, okay, what can I do some of this part-time or some of this from home? But it was clear, like, that wasn't sustainable either. It was like, okay, I need, like, I was like, it was approaching a place where I had to make a leap of faith, but one with my, my daughter in mind, in reality in mind. And it wasn't, like, I knew emotionally I like, had listener support, and there's a hardcore group of listeners that are supporting the show, but I said, well, it's still like a leap of faith. Like, and I'm a person that overthinks and is, anxious and stuff. But at some point I took that jump and I guess that was the last year, but I said, okay, again, if I'm taking this jump, the show has to, like, now it has to be sustainable because I'm leaving my career, which I had a pension and stuff. So it was like my main, it was like, oh, that was what I was planning my future around. But I also, over the years, had attained a lot of skills. So I said, okay, well, I know I can produce and make podcasts, so I could always do something else in the podcast business. Not a big deal. And then towards the last year, I guess that was 4 years. So I said, listen, I was honest with myself and the audience. I said, okay, I have to start looking at what's sustainable, like, what is paying the bills and what is not paying the bills. And so that was like, first we tried to get funding to make sure to cover the costs of Sleep to Strange, and we weren't able to do that. And so we stopped putting out Sleep to Strange as far as a free show. Then it was like, okay, should we keep it takes a lot of work to put the show out 3 times a week. And it limited my ability to try to, pursue other opportunities to make the podcast sustainable, which was, so I said, okay, is it realistic to keep the show 3 episodes a week with the number of sponsors and patrons we have? And at the end of the year, it was like, no, it's just not sustainable for me as a creator or looking at the numbers. It's just like, okay, we got to cut to 2 a week. And that was a really good decision because it enabled me a little bit more space to interact with the audience, to interact with the podcast community, and connect with other podcast people that are creating podcasts. And it was also like right around the time I left my job. So all this happened in the winter, like the end of 2017. And so like I left my job, tried to focus. We had some other shakeups in there too. But it actually wasn't like, because of the Patreon was still in a place where it's like, okay, I still need to get this going and I still need to get more sponsors. It was like, I guess in some sense I had made that leap. And so it's like, okay, well, I'm committed to this podcast now and committed to making it sustainable. And I said, okay, well, I do have all these tangible skills, so I don't need to worry. And because I was connected to more people creating podcasts, like the people at Night Vale Presents, people at PRX and Radiotopia, and just a lot of my independent friends creating podcasts. It was like I was able to get some, better advice and say, okay, well, I think I think we're going to be okay. And to be like, okay, 2018, let's just see how it goes again. And I guess like when you're listening to this, it might be further along. We still are in a see how it goes kind of state. But things change faster now, a little bit faster. So it's like, okay, I think by the end of 2018, we'll be able to keep making 2 episodes a week, free episodes. And I'm pretty confident we are, but I we keep assessing things and saying, okay. I mean, the people that support the show, it's been amazing. And I think it's not an issue of people that don't want to support the show. It's just an issue of people falling asleep very fast, which is like, so podcast has kind of been a victim of its own effectiveness and success. And it's just like a overall apathy, like in general, like to say, well, if it's free, you know, it's just a strange thing to pay for something that's free, or to not passively, we're kind of also taught to like passively consume advertising instead of be like, oh, Brooklyn and Sleep Phones are part of what keep the show going. So it's just like, and then when you're already sleeping in bed, we've able to, like, people are also great about word of mouth, so the show's been able to grow in that way. And I just learned so much about myself about that people are there to support you, listeners and other podcasters and friends and family, and that you can take these leaps, and it's okay to have doubt and to be a little nervous or AFRAID. Because it isn't outside of your comfort zone. It is outside your comfort zone, but it says, okay, it's not an all or nothing thing either. You'll be able to find your way. And I can parent myself and say, you know, I'm here to take care of you. It's okay to be afraid. Let me pat your back. We're going to do the best decision we can. And we made a good decision. We have a podcast with about 150,000 regular listeners. Maybe at the time you're listening more, and people that really are invested in the show, and people that support you, people that benefit from the podcast, people that interact with you, that shower you with kindness. And there's a lot of people that believe in you in the show, so it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And let's just take it one step at a time. I mean, that's kind of where things are. Like, I think I have trust that it's like, okay, things are going to keep growing. We're going to add some more sponsors. We're going to get our archives back up, and we're going to keep the show at 2 episodes a week. That's what I'm working for here towards the end of 2018. I guess is my goals is to get the archives back up, make sure they're sustainable, and make sure the free show is sustainable twice a week. Yes, and I'm pretty confident we'll get there, because we got a lot of great support, and I want to thank you for that. But yeah, I guess I've gone off, so let's run through. Yeah, okay, so here we are. Let's run through 600 and to now. So 600 was 7 stages of banter, which again, I can't believe that was 100 episodes ago, but that was a fun episode. Another Born to Win seminar episode. Statue Love, that was another After Glass Slipper episode I enjoyed. Little One and Mother, that was with Troy's mom and Picard on Star Trek The Next Generation. Fearless Flyer review in October, that's funny. Maybe that was our last Fearless Flyer review, I don't know, but that was a good one. No, I think we did one with Pumpkin Pie Spice. Pop quiz after the glass slipper, yesterday's Enterprise, TNG, Hamlet with Brainbots. That was October 24th. Holy mackerel. That was like about me procrastinating going to see Hamlet and then being happy I did. Castles in Compromise. That was another After the Glass Slipper episode. That was good. Fistful of Datas. So we're getting towards the end of, we're getting ready for the launch of this new Star Trek Discovery series. And then 609 Costume Nostalgia. That came out on Halloween. I know that was a popular episode. It was a fun look at, nostalgia for Halloween costumes. Quilting Clues. That was another After the Glass Slipper one. Context, and then we did Star Trek Discovery, but I think, I enjoyed the show. It was just a matter of a combination of the paywall, and I guess, just that Star Trek was just having trouble with a large number of listeners not listening to the Star Trek episodes. Then Talking Bogs, that was another on-location episode where I talked to a bog. Don't Look Back. That was with Talking Bogs. Was with who was it with? Viola, maybe. I can't remember. Don't Look Back. That was a cool After Glass Slipper episode. Then another Discovery episode when doves and lambs fly together. Then a healing kind of personal fictional journey. Clouds Heal. That was because I kept failing quizzes for clouds. In 4th or 5th grade. teaching valuations. That was towards the end of or maybe that was the last episode of After the Last Slipper. I think it was. And Choose Your Pun, that was another Star Trek Discovery episode. I think that was the last one we did. Plus, it was up against the holiday season. Apple at My Core, that was a fun one because it was like a look at apples, which I love, and apple picking, and even like an apple coaster, I think. Then we did a tale of the tape for the movie Home Alone. Then I did an episode about snow sledding, like a little trip, immersive trip of snow sledding. Then as the North Pole turns, that was a holiday series, a short holiday series, soap opera at the North Pole. Then we did Tale of the Tape for the movie Scrooged, which was, again, a fun one. We did a Holiday Knocks with Dan and Muskie. That was with Dan Harmon and Elon Musk helping find lost pets. And then Stormy Sheep, which is another As North Pole Turns episode. Then we had our first Doctor Who episode with a visit from Charles Dickens, just because it was the holiday season. Then a Macy's parade recap, Happy Pucks. That was like the best parade ever, just because of this guy. He was dressed as a puck. I think there's two of them, and they were dancing, and they were so happy. I still can see it. Then a holiday, like a Macy's, then As the North Pole Turns, another episode, Mellorama. Then National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation Tale, the tape. Then like the two characters from other holiday episodes, the elf nobody knew and the Christmas tree that took a walk, went on a walk together. Then the finale of As the North Pole Turns, North Pole Cocoa Square Dance. Then we had Peeping Leaves, which was a leaf episode, where I talked about leaf peeping. Then on location episode from Stowe Lake, and this is when we moved to the twice a week schedule here. Then we started doing regular Doctor Who season 1. And that first episode was Rose. Then we interviewed Jenny, the new username generator. That's another creative high point for the podcast. I can't believe it was all the way in January. Then we had Lentils and Plastic Toys, which was a look back at both After Glass Slipper and I think that's what it was. And let's see, Jenny, the username generator. Yeah, and As the North Pole Turns, I think. Then I Feel Fine, another Doctor Who episode. Then Pitch and Curry and Moranis episode. I pitched them in a Hall & Oates musical. Still haven't heard anything from anybody about that. Then we kicked off our new series with Fairy Tale River Ride. That was a theme park series that never got a name, but it was about a young woman in a theme park. Then Friends in London, another Doctor Who episode. Then Food Pilgrimager, which was another, what is that called? Fearless Flyer episode. It was called Food Pilgrimager. Then another ride episode, Dark Side of the Pretzel from the theme park series. Doctor Who Once, Twice, Thrice a Doctor. Another good creative episode, Weathered Weather Vane. Another one I was happy with how it came out. I wanted to do a story about a weathered vane, and it, again, took some turns I didn't expect. Gliding Over Comfort. That was, I don't know if you've been on that ride, Soarin', but that was what it was about. Then Comic Dalek. I didn't even realize that kind of rhymed. Comic Dalek. Maybe I did at the time. Then a Carole King episode where I went on an adventure with a label maker. Then a theme park ride, with Oceans. Then 648 was a Long Game. That was another Doctor Who episode. 649 was another interview episode with Matter Matters. It was a TV show, Matter Matters, I think. Episode 650 was Curly Sue Rush, which is based on, like, what's that ride called? Or influenced by Big Thunder Mountain. Father's Day, that was a Doctor Who episode. Real-time recipe, both my Instapot, real recipe under pressure in real time. Then Panda Force, which was kind of influenced by the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland. Let's see, Empty Snore Child, that was a Sleeping with Doctor Who episode. Then we had a Fairy Tale Gloom game unboxing, where I unboxed the game Fairy Tale Gloom. Then we had a theme park episode, Conservatory Reading, which is kind of influenced by The Land. Then Fan of a Fan, which was kind of an episode about fandom, and particularly that I'm a fan of my fan. Then we had Dr. Dances, another Doctor Who episode. Episode Rom-Con Con, which was, had a little bit of Tingler in there. I wrote Romanflits. It was about me starting a romance convention, and then going to a romance convention where I didn't have books. I had romanflits, romantic pamphlets. Toy Town, that was about, what's that, Happy Little World, what's it called? A World of Journey. I don't know what that ride's called, where all the kids sing. The Small World, yeah, that's it, Small World. Thanks, Brain. Then Boomtown, another Doctor Who episode that, like, really getting close to the end of that season. Central Park Regret came out in April. That was, I still say Paul Simon should make a song about that. That was kind of a fiction reality melded. Heart of a Candy Band, that was a theme park ride episode. Bad Wolf, that was a great Doctor Who episode, one I really enjoyed. 665 was Friends of Mario and Sonic, where I said, who are all these people that hang out with Mario and Sonic? I was like, what the heck? Let's look it up. 666 was Jungle River Journey. I thought 666 was going to be a Doctor Who episode, but it ended up being Jungle River Journey, theme park episode. 667, Parting of the Ways. That was the last Doctor Who episode. 668 was Skywriter, where I met a skywriter. I tried to save skywriting successfully, by the way, but it was fictional, but I successfully saved skywriting. 669 was the finale of the theme park series, Caretaker's Carousel, which part of it took place in the Carousel of Progress. 670 was The Good Place, episodes 1 and 2. A Good Place to Sleep, based on the TV show The Good Place. And that was kind of like a surprise. I said, okay, I don't know. I just love the show so much. I said, we're going to do this. Bell Biv de Bib, that was for Memorial Day, and that's all intros episode. Then we had the Alice Isn't at Brunch, the Alice Isn't at the Big Farm crossover, with a great podcast from Joseph Fink. So that was a fun crossover. Then a review of the theme park series, a little run through. Then episode about Tahani and Jason, Good Place, episode 3 and 4. Yeah, 3 and 4. Then a comparison of the Pirates of the Caribbean rides with Ray, my neighbor. It was a good episode, I think. Ray kind of said the Disneyland and the Disney World Pirates of the Caribbean rides are very different, or not very different, but, and Ray wanted to come on and explain to people all the differences. Then another new series that we're still in progress right now, Stan Chronicles episode 1, Nuns in Space. Stan returns, Stan and Scooter. Then The Good Place to Sleep, episodes 5 and 6. Then The Lemonade Experience, another kind of different episode, where it was just about sipping lemonade on a porch and idealizing that. Then The Stan Chronicles 2, where Stan's on the artist journey, working his way through that. Then 680 was The Good Place to Sleep, episode 7 and 8. Then the Bernie the Butterfly tote bag episode, where Bernie the Butterfly comes out and talks about tote bags. 681. 682 is the 4th of July, so we did an all intros episode. More pillows than a fancy hotel. 683 was Smelling Space, with Nuns in Space, episode 3. Then we covered Good Place episodes 9 and 10. 685 was Cloud Tower, which was kind of like an air traffic control tower in the clouds. And also kind of meant to be soothing if you're flying, if you're in the air, you're in a tube, thing. Yeah, for people that don't like that. Then Letter to a Younger Soda Machine Self. That was Stand 5, 2, 3. 2, 3. Maybe 4. I don't know. Yeah, I guess 4. Then A Good Place to Sleep episodes 11 and 12. Then another Carole King episode, Mothership Connection, with a little bit of Funkadelic in there. Yeah, then a 99 PI crossover, or tribute, more of a tribute to Roman Mars and 99% Invisible, where and would mash up too with pitching Moranis and Curry. It was pitching Roman Mars, Rick Moranis, and Tim Curry in a movie. It was like a lot of layers in there. And when I record this, last episode release was 691 Prom Free, Stan Chronicles episode 5, which was about prom that you didn't. It was a no date prom, so it kind of dream prom. So that's all that's released. So let me see off the top of my head if I can figure out what's coming next without looking. 691 is A Good Place to Sleep episode 13. Yeah, because I was just listening and editing that one. So that would be 692 would be a visit to the New York State Fair, a little history of the New York State Fair. 691, 692. 693 would be Stan, part 6. I was just listening to that one too, but I don't want to, spoil him. 694 will be a Troy, Star Trek The Next Generation episode with Troy is the main. She's the lead. She's in command of the ship. I had to change the title of the episode to Troy. I can't remember what I named it, but because the name of the episode's not very sleepy. 695 should be State Fair, another visit to New York State Fair. It'll be interesting. I guess you're hearing this after this all come out with more details about the New York State Fair and memories. 696 would be Stan Chronicles episode 7, which progressively gets more and more interesting and more sleepy. What is that, 696 or 697? I don't know. 690. Well, my finger says 7. So 697 would be Star Trek The Next Generation. And I don't know the order of the release. Let's see. There's Allegiance is one of them. So let's just say, I don't know if it is that's the next one. But that's one of the ones coming out is Allegiance. I think maybe that's it. And it's about Picard. There's 2 Picards at one time in the episode, including one that's ready to date. So that's a good one. So that's 7. 98 is that 98? So 7 would be 98. I think it's going to be a Tingler crossover. So anybody that's a Chuck Tingle fan will have the lulling, like it should be on Chuck's podcast, the Pounded podcast for grown-ups only, will be a grown-up version. And then there'll be a Sleep With Me version. All about being okay. So it should be 698. So that would make 699 Stan 8. Yeah, that looks right. And then 700 would be, I think, because the schedule, there's like somewhere in there is a Labor Day. So somewhere in there is going to be an all intro episode. Then somewhere in there would be, let me just try to figure out the next Star Trek one because I can't remember, so it'd be at least entertaining. Like the Star Trek episode after that would be The First Duty with Wesley. But in between those, we did Allegiance because I record stuff so far ahead of time. I probably recorded this last week. It was so long ago. I did Allegiance. I just recorded The First Duty this week. So what was the other one? I honestly don't know. Then there'll be those retrospective episodes and the rest of the Nuns in Space episodes. And then also we'll be doing Good Place season premiere will be in there. So that's like what we have on tap. I wish I could remember that other Star Trek one. Like, who was the main character? Was it, there's another one with, oh no, that one's after the Wesley episode. There's like Moriarty one, but that's after it. Okay, you know what? I just remembered it. It was, it's one about, it's called Brothers, I think. It's about Data and Data's brother. That might even be before the Wesley. Yeah, it is before the Wesley one. So it's about Data and Lore, and then two other, the B story is very short, but it's about two brothers on aboard the ship. And I really feel a sense of familyhood with all of you listeners. So thank you so much for being with me on this journey and supporting me on this journey and believing in me, because I believe you deserve a good night's sleep. That's why I make the show. I say it a lot, but I've been there. So thanks for the help keeping the show going. Or, thank you for just being rested and sleep and then putting positive energy out in the world. Thanks and good night. I want to thank Anya for the support on Venmo. Thanks, and good night. And I want to thank on Patreon our new patrons, Larissa, Lorraine, and Chris. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Trish, Nancy, and Jan. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Jordan, Morgan, and Carter. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Elizabeth, Sarah, and Stacy. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Jill, James, and Lauren. Thanks, and good night. Kat, Natasha, and Eric. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Ann, Caleb, and Chris. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Laura, Tim, and Alexa. I had to say that in a strange way so the speakers didn't. Thanks, and good night. Joshua, Lily, and Melody. Thanks, and good night. TJ, Yeki, and Kimberly. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Mickey, Jim, and Annie. Thanks, and good night. Mary, Maureen, and Hannah. Thank you, thanks, and good night. Lisa, Ann, Marie, and Jackie. Thanks, and good night. Hannah, Seth, and Christy. Thanks, and good night. D, Matthew, and Wayne. Thanks, and good night. Julie, Sarah, and Tristan. Thanks, and good night. Megan, Andrew, and Mark. Thanks, and good night. Emily, Matthew, and Kyle. Thanks, and good night. Brittany, Sarah, and Friday. Thanks, and good night. Jan, Purple, and Daniel. Thanks, and good night. And Karen, Janine, and Anthony. Thanks, and good night. Thank you so much, everybody that supports the show on Patreon, the monthly supporters. Thanks, everybody that supports the show in other means, in other ways. If you want to subscribe and support the show on a monthly basis, it's by far the number one way we keep the show going. sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Sleep With Me is also a proud member of Night Vale Presents. You can check out all of the amazing shows over at nightvalepresents.com. And we're also a member of PRX. You can check out PRX at prx.org. Thank you all so much, and good night.